Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good evening. It is the Voice of the People on Monday, October 2nd, 2017. It's the sixth man, Dean Geronimo, and I'm here in the studio with my man, Mark Lee. Mark, what's good for today, or what could be better?
Hey, you know, the world could definitely be better. It's been a rough kind of day on today. We've had all kinds of craziness going on, but it's been craziness for the last couple of days, you know. Or what, I guess over the last few days we had Trump tweeting insanity. I mean, absolute insanity about Puerto Rico. You know, he's over there trying to, like, do rants and other craziness and taking all kinds of attitude with the people from Puerto Rico, and all they're trying to do is get some aid. But he's over there talking about things like, you know, it's a waterlogged country and they got water around it, so it's hard for us to get over there. And I'm sitting there going, like, haven't we done drops to places before that were islands and other places? I mean, we got planes, we got boats, we got ways to get folks to stuff. So when he said that, that made no sense to me. And I'm sure that the folks that are all up in arms about gun control and stuff like that, they're going to be looking at that total tragedy that happened earlier, like I guess it was either last night or this morning over there in Las Vegas, where several people, I mean, I think last count was 58, had been killed in a random shooting and everything. Well, I don't know about random, but definitely a shooting by somebody that just decided to go to a country and western concert and just start shooting left and right. So I do know that, you know, out of this, the gun control folks are going to be trying to, like, look at that issue again. But, you know, the NRA is such a powerful force that even though I don't know anybody that goes hunting that needs an assault rifle, for that matter, I don't even know anybody in law enforcement that really needs an assault rifle, but I'm sure that they're going to find some way to justify the fact that assault rifles are out there and that they need to still be out there. They'll find some kind of way to make that their stance, even though it makes no sense to me, because if you're going to go kill, let's think of the meats that you can eat that are edible meats that you can go hunting for. That would be meats like deer and rabbit and things of that nature.
Right.
And if you take an assault rifle and you start shooting that thing, how much meat is really going to be left?
Well, I mean, did he legally obtain that assault rifle? There's another question to that. You know, like some of the gun laws, and it varies from state to state. And I was talking to one of my friends out of Arizona. He said anybody can get a gun in Arizona. Now, if you come over here to the East Coast, then the laws are different. My question is, one, did he get that legally, or did he get it in the dark realm and modify it, you know? And unfortunately, I don't know, I look at things, the NRA, they have a strong hold on it. Law-abiding citizens have a problem being able to exercise that Second Amendment right in some places. And then, you know, you have people that, oh, well, they need a background check to find out if they're mentally ill and this and that. But I'm quite sure some mentally ill people with some firepower out there. Police have been outnumbered in some cases, and that's not a pretty sight. And I don't know, maybe and you know, when certain crimes happen where firearms are involved, especially with the gun violence, if I know there's a low probability that you'll have a weapon, I'm not talking about today, so to speak, because he was elevated. So he had a vantage point over all of those individuals that were down there. And it would have been impossible for anybody to, quote-unquote, shoot back. But for those who commit those crimes with firearms, if they knew that there was a high probability that they would get shot, would they have done the same thing? So it's something, I guess, that needs to really be looked at, because the laws limit those who are actually trying to abide by them. And the other folks, they do their thing, you know. So it's an unfortunate situation that happened. I know somebody's going to say, oh, this guy was mentally ill. That's the cop-out now. That's the new catchphrase, mentally ill. He's mentally ill. So if I go out here and slap the first person in the restaurant and say I'm mentally ill, does that qualify? You know, and it's a sad situation that we have individuals who, you know, just decide upon themselves that, okay, today I'm just going to do this because I'm mad at something else. I know they have reported on the news this morning that he had a lawsuit against one of the hotels out in Vegas. I guess they settled, and he wasn't happy with the settlement. They don't know. We don't have all of the facts. I know one problem I do have is that they call it the worst massacre in the history of the United States. They must have started counting after June 1st, 1921. But I'm going to leave that part alone right now and ask you what are your thoughts on that? I know they started in one article at like 1949, and I'm like, oh, okay. So what happened?
Yeah, because I hear what you're saying with the massacres, because, I mean, there have been several massacres that have been out there. I mean, we can even look at, they said I hadn't heard that quote, but they say it's the worst massacre. I mean, what was 9/11? What was the situation that happened in Tulsa several years ago, like even before the 60s, that involved like people getting killed in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in our communities? What was, I mean, and there have been other incidents. And I mean, we also have to look at what, as a friend of mine, I was talking to him earlier today, as he was telling me, I mean, if we start looking at gun control and things of that nature, I mean, even looking at some of where the other incidents have been. I mean, Columbine, if I remember correctly, wasn't that like in a high school environment? And Sandy Hook was we're talking, kindergarten kids? We're talking real little kids, and somebody went off and everything, and I think that was something else that they claimed until listening. And, of course, we had Charleston where the guy goes into a church service. So, I mean, we're definitely looking at folks that whenever they have these incidences that they're going to snap or whatever, then, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and how people decide as to what was the triggering factor. I hadn't heard about the lawsuit and things of that nature, but I do know that as they keep exploring, they'll keep finding other things. A friend of mine had told me earlier today that I guess even, which is common in war situations, and in some degrees, if we're going up against people in the Middle East or even people in North Korea, then some folks would consider that a war situation. And I've heard that apparently even ISIS was claiming responsibility, even though this was an older white gentleman. But like I mentioned to them before, there have been cases of even older folks being recruited by organizations like ISIS. I can't remember the incident, but I do remember that there was a U.S. citizen that had apparently been recruited by ISIS. But what I'm hearing is that it also could have been even involved with like militia, because we do know that, with the race stuff that's going on in society and things like that, those kind of militia groups are out there, and those kind of militia groups are definitely stockpiling on weapons and things of that nature. I mean, I don't know why they would be shooting at a country and western concert if they're members of the militia, but, who knows who they were actually targeting, even though that was not the audience demographics. We don't know who else was in there in terms of security and in terms of other things that are there as part of the Las Vegas culture. So it'll be interesting to see what folks find out, but that since the shooter took himself out, it's going to be a lot of those answers we may never know, since he killed himself, and a lot of those answers, unless he left a note or something, we'll probably never know. It's going to be a lot of speculation, and I'm sure people will use it as a call to have tighter gun control and things of that nature. And I'm definitely one who can see us having, in my opinion, some tighter gun control laws, particularly with things like assault rifles and things of that nature. I don't necessarily think that we don't need to not have weapons. Private individuals don't need to have weapons, because, I grew up in a small town called Warrenton, so I've got folks that definitely do hunting, regular hunting, with regular shotguns, things of that nature, and I definitely got friends that are into both armed services in terms of the armed forces and definitely in the police force. So I do know that, and just common protection. It's a rough world we live in, so I don't have any problem with people having the right to carry firearms. I think that's a basic civil right. It's definitely out there, but I do have issues with definitely us needing to find ways to put some tighter controls on what's allowed out there in terms of registrations and in terms of things of that nature. So I would definitely think that we need to have those kind of things going on.
Yes, indeed, and we'll continue this conversation a little bit. Someone is ringing our doorbell, so let's answer the door and find out who's here.
That sounds like a good idea.
Good evening. Thanks for calling the Voice of the People. Who are we speaking with this evening? Hello?
I heard a doorbell,
right.
too.
Yeah, let's try this again. Let's try the other line. Thanks for calling the Voice of the People. Who do we have this evening?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, is that Joe over there? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? Is that
Hi.
Joe? Is that Joe Newberry?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes,
hear you, Joe.
can.
How's it going, Joe?
It's going all right. It's going all right. I'll tell you what, it's been a long day, and I've been listening in on your conversation, and I can add my prayers for peace and for understanding to the conversation, and so it's good to be with y'all, and it's good to be thinking about all the folks who need prayers lifted up, and all the action and all the work that needs to be done.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a lot of work and actions that need to be done, and people definitely need to consider everything that's going on in the world and things of that nature. So we definitely appreciate those prayers that you were adding to the conversation as well. And I think you had not on this kind of dramatic kind of thing, but I think you had a fairly busy week yourself this week, didn't you?
I did, and I was thinking about it in terms of what happened in Las Vegas. Anytime I play music for a living, and I play in crowds all the time, and so it's something that we may think, well, that's out in far away, but it's really not. It's close to home. So we had it was a beautiful turnout in Raleigh, and everybody looked like they were on their best behavior and being sweet to each other and being good to each other. And the organizers, the International Bluegrass Music Association, and also the town of Raleigh and Pinecone, the Piedmont Council of Traditional Music, I think they were working as hard as they could to keep us everybody safe and everybody having a good time. And that's really what we need to do is to make sure that if you go out to hear music, you're safe when you do it.
There's no doubt about that, and I've actually been impressed because one of the things that I noticed this year about the International Bluegrass Music Association was that there was actually, and there might have been in the other years that it's been in Raleigh, but it seemed like it was a very concentrated effort this year to try to even expand the diversity because in the past, a lot of times, I'm a fan of all kinds of music. I love bluegrass, love folk, definitely love my blues and things of that nature. But it seemed to me like with the Ebony Hillbillies, and there was even a gentleman that I think was a part of the LGBT community, that they definitely made an effort to try to reach out into other parts of the community, even in Raleigh, that might not necessarily be the usual target audience for bluegrass. Even though bluegrass is... Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
When Mr. Monroe was building his music, he drew from all of the things that he was listening to, including Arnold Schultz, the African-American guitar player and fiddler, and church music, and string band music, and country music, and so the diversity was there. And so when Rhiannon Giddens did her keynote speech, that was something that she really remarked upon, which is let's go ahead and celebrate the diversity that's always been there and make sure it comes back into the forefront. And I saw more young people. I saw people of color. I saw LGBTQ folks there and just playing and working side by side with everybody. And that was a great thing. It was a great thing to see.
Yeah, I would definitely imagine that would be just an amazing thing to see in that kind of community. For those folks, like I said, I've known you now for a while, Joe, but for those folks that are familiar with you, and I know that you've definitely been a true treasure in the bluegrass world, having played with Garrison Killer and Prairie Home Companion, having been involved with various festivals and things of that nature. You're a transplant to North Carolina from Missouri, but tell me and tell the listeners how you got involved in bluegrass music and what the appeal to bluegrass music was for you.
Well, I started out in a singing family. I've sung my whole life in Missouri, and I tell people that I'm not from North Carolina, but I got here as quick as I could. And I came to visit a friend when I was in my early 20s, and I just stayed. I decided to stay. I was sort of